Hello. Um, okay, some thoughts for for Thursday, January 30th. I know there's a lot of people talking on Facebook right now, and hopefully lots of them have a lot of positive messaging. Personally, I've been really grateful for Heather Cox Richardson's talks, and that's been a good source of help for me. And I'm also trying to limit, there's probably a lot of other great people out there like Michael Harriot, who are, of course, like, there's just tons of great influencers, but here's the deal. Like, I'm trying also to limit. I saw a meme the other day that said, my need to stay informed and my need to stay sane are in direct opposition with one another right now. And I totally was like, yep, exactly, right? So here's what I'm kind of thinking is, as we're all working hard on knowing that this is going to be a marathon and not a sprint, how can we put healthy boundaries around the way we spend our mental energy and the way we spend our actual time, and simultaneously stay informed, and simultaneously be an activist, and simultaneously be a human and live a life, which you really kind of would think you ought to be able just to do, right? You ought to be able to just exist without having the government tell you you don't exist if you don't fit in one of two categories. Or you ought to be able to just exist and be able to have the story of your heritage told as it was, without the government saying that we are going to actually call that reverse discrimination, and you need to, like, the latest, of course, executive orders that schools need to de-wokeify and their whole curriculum, and totally invalidate transgender children. So how do we do all that? And here's, I don't know. Like, I'll be the first to I don't know. I never lived in a dictatorship before. So, but I do know this. I do know this from the point of view of a therapist, is that the healthier we are and the more we take care of ourselves in the middle of an aftermath of crisis, the more able we are to cope. And we don't want our self-care to pendulate over to the side of avoidance and hiding. We can't do that. We need each other. It's like, think of this metaphor of your neighbor's house is burning down, and it's a horrific thing to look at because it's scary and terrible. Maybe, I don't know if that's the right metaphor, but I'm just going to latch onto that one. And so there is a man-made disaster unfolding in front of your eyes, and you know that it's the wrong thing to do to look away, and you also know you can't save it and stop. You can't on your own stop it. Like, collectively, if the whole neighborhood got their garden hoses out, and they could all reach and everybody could work on dousing that fire at once, you might be able to collectively put it out. But on your own, no, you can't. So here's what I want to suggest is this. The last thing that would be helpful would be for someone to run up and down the streets while everyone else is squirting water on the house, going, "Oh my God, did you see it? Did you see it? The flames are now coming out of the third floor window. Oh my God, now look at that. Oh my God." And another unhelpful thing would be to be yelling at one another, like, "Who started this fire? It's all for your fault." I did some of that. I'm going to own it. I did some of that toward the people that I know caused this trash fire, or were a causative factor in this trash fire. And so what I'm working on right now is reining in those angry parts, because I know this is a therapist, but it doesn't mean I act like a therapist all the time. I do my best. Lord knows I do my best. But before I'm a therapist, I'm a human. And what humans do when they're scared is a lot of times they externalize that fear as irritability or anger. So, for example, when a child almost does something that could cause them harm, like riding their tricycle out into the street, which I did when I was little, I quite remember my mother yelling at me for that. A parent might say something like, "Why did you do that? Don't ever ride your bike out into the street, right? You almost got hit by a car." And that's just fear talking. That's what that is. Hey, sit. Sit. Speaking of fear, I got a little chicken butt dog next to me. So, moving that fear toward action, I think, is going to be super important. And I think collectively, when we look at social media, what we're doing, a lot of us is like, look at this, look at that. Can you believe this? You know, what a fill in the blank. And while that is helping us to externalize some of the anger that would cause us to kind of implode if we held it all in, it's also maybe sort of adding to this like collective energy of doom, despair, and hopelessness, which I'm now seeing to happen in some of my friends on social media. And what I want to encourage us all to do from this moment forward is mindfully ask ourselves before we post anything, before we post a meme or a article or an executive order or anything, before we post it, ask ourselves, how will this be helpful? And will it contribute to a collective energy of rolling up our sleeves and fighting the fire? Or will it contribute to a collective energy of panic? And then from there, make a decision about what you're going to do. And I think one way you could almost do both, where you could both inform people of the thing you want them to know and empower them, is you could think about what kind of a thing could I do to resist? This morning I doubled my monthly donation to the ACLU. And one of my friends called Tammy Baldwin to ask a question. So those are things where you could still post your like, oh gosh, this thing is happening, right? You could still post that. And then you could add, and here's what I'm doing about it. And that's what I want to encourage us to do, beginning now. Okay? All right. Bye-bye.